Right, hopefully that's taking us live. I'm still waiting for it to come on Facebook. This is not good. Let's just make sure that's right down. Yeah, for some reason I can't see it on Facebook. Perhaps I have to refresh the thing. I don't know. Who knows? Let's have a look. Oh, we are live. Excellent. So I can hopefully keep that up and see. I'm trying really hard to make sure I can see all the comments if anybody is live. So don't know if anybody's out there wants to join me. Please put something in the comments, either on YouTube if you're watching live on YouTube, or if you're watching on Facebook, then please do just jot down a comment so that I know you're there and there might be somebody listening. Is there anyone out there? Right, I've got this shut up. It's because it's freezing here. We've had problems with our heating. Our boiler gave up the ghost, so we haven't got any central heating, and it's been so flipping freezing. But at least today, I thought it was going to rain all day, but actually that's the sun just coming out. So hopefully that'll be quite warm. If we can get some warmth, it will be great. So no comments yet, that's fine. I'm hoping I've got it set up right so I can see them. But what I wanted to talk about today is several things happening. First thing is there are some wonderful new online exclusives, so do have a look at those if you get a chance. If you go to my website, craftycarolscards.co.uk, then you will be able to see all of the things that are there. You can click on it, look in the shop. There's a link to it, the online exclusives. They're going to be online. It's a bit different to Celebration, which is very time limited, but online exclusives are available until they sell out, basically. So a lot of opportunity there to get some really nice stuff. There's some nice things there. Waiting for my order. Hopefully it'll come early next week. Anyway, today what I wanted to talk about was heat embossing. Now I know a lot of you will have done some heat embossing, and I find there's that card. There we go. I hold that up to show you. That's a sort of fairly not very good at getting it right. Don't know if you can see the gold embossing on that, but it is there. I did the outline of the stamp in the gold embossing and then coloured it in. So that's one very simple way to do it, and how people do it. And I'm actually going to put two videos up on the website. There's one going up at the end of this week and one will come next week, which are going to give 10 tips. Well, I think it's going to be 10. We'll see, about how to do some heat embossing, and that's what I'm going to talk about today. So do I have to keep refreshing? I don't know if I have to keep refreshing Facebook to see comments. Anyway, if you are putting comments on and I'm not seeing, I do apologise. Hopefully I will actually see them. Perhaps I have to actually I've just knocked my iPad over. Hang on. Oh. That wasn't very good, was it? Destroy my iPad while doing this. Okay. I think perhaps I have to... I can go into that. Right, I think. Excellent. Comments will be shown here. Excellent. I think I've got that in the right place now. And hopefully, if I put that up, it won't fall over again. That was really bad, wasn't it? Sorry about that. Right, I am going to do the magic. I love this program because it gives me the magic to do that. So I go into a little box in the bottom and you can see my desk. So this is where I'm obviously going to be working. So you'll see the side of me as I turn towards the desk. But let's have a look at some heat embossing. So first thing is I want to talk about tools, because for heat embossing you do need tools. One really important tool is your heat tool. Now this is the Stampin' Up heat tool. It's got 2 speeds and it's a really nice heat tool, and it's relatively quiet. Unfortunately, because of having to have heaters around the room, I've had to use my old one, which is plugged in behind the desk, which I can't now get to. So I can't plug this one in and use it. So the one I'll be using today is a little bit noisy, so apologies for that. We'll see how it goes as we go there. But key is a heat tool, really important. A hairdryer is no good for heat embossing. You might think it is, but unfortunately it isn't. So you do need a proper heat tool. So it is a bit of an expense, but you only buy it once and it will last you forever, just about. So the other things that are really important are the right ink pad. You do need a watermark stamp pad. This is Versamark. Mine's absolutely filthy, but you do need that. That is a special sort of ink which is a little bit sticky and holds to the page and then will hold on to the embossing powder when you use it. The other thing you need is an embossing buddy. Now, Stampin' Up did used to sell these. They don't at the moment for some reason, but you can get them from most craft shops will sell these, or Amazon probably have them. I haven't checked, but I'm sure they do. And they're just a little pouch of powder, and it's important that you rub it all over your card. So if you're going to emboss, you want to rub all over your piece of card, because that will take away any grease marks that have come from your fingers or any sticky bits on the card or whatever. It just makes the card base really clean for you to then stamp on. Now, if you haven't got a stamping buddy, don't panic, because what you can do is use a used tumble dryer sheet. Let me get that right. Use a used tumble dryer sheet, one that's been through your tumble dryer, and that will do the same job. It just takes away any grease, because our fingers are greasy and we get that on here. And what that means is that when you want to then emboss, you'll actually get finger marks all over the place, and the embossing powder will stick to that grease. So use your embossing buddy to clean your stamp of paper, your piece of card or paper that you're going to stamp on. Okay, let's have a look. Now, I haven't decided. I was going to ask anybody who might be with me to decide on which set you want to use. And I thought that for today, I use the colour and contour set in the video that's going up on Friday. But I thought we might use a set I haven't actually opened yet, which is the Sending Dies set, because it's got some nice solid images, which I liked the look of. So, oh, quite like that one. I might do that one, actually. That's quite nice. Yeah, we'll use this solid elite here. So, ooh, of course these are new, so let's peel them off and find a decent thing to stick them on. Then I need a flower head. There's a nice big one there, or a fairly... The smaller one actually matches my leaves a bit better, I think. Let's try it and see. Okay, so I've got our stamps. I'm running out of space as always. When I've got my cameras and things there, it's difficult to find the space. So I've prepared my card by using the embossing buddy over it. So now I can use my Versamark, and I'm going to just show you different types of embossing powder. Stampin' Up have two packs of sets of 3 of embossing powder, and you have the metallics, which are gold, silver and copper. They don't come in these, by the way. I put my powders in these because I find it easier to manage them and not get them everywhere. I still do manage to get it everywhere, but a bit better. And then you have the basic set, which is white, black, and for some reason I haven't got this in a container, I should do, clear. Those are the 3 basics. So there are 6 embossing powders available. Sometimes we have different ones. A couple of years ago we had a lovely set of ink colours in embossing powder, which was really, really nice. Anyway, I'm going to use these stamps and the metallics, I think, to show you on this first. So I'm going to stamp my leaves about there. And the reason, which colour should we have? I think we'll just have silver for the leaves. The reason that I put these in the box, and I just used some plastic spoons I got cheap from some place or other, is because I can then use the box, cover my image with my powder, so that's my leaves covered in the silver, and then it hopefully stays all in the box and I don't get too much on my desk. I still managed to get some on the desk. And I've done a cardinal sin, which has left my VersaPad open while I put embossing powder on, which is a cardinal sin, but never mind. Right, I'm going to go slightly, if I don't knock everything over with this, to the side with my heat tool, because it is a bit loud. I hope it doesn't disrupt too much if we're on here. So key with the heat tool is heat it up before you use it on your card. Don't start immediately. So I'm going to turn it on and let it heat up first. And you can tell when it's heated up because it feels hot, the air coming out. So it doesn't take long for this particular heat tool to heat up. I find the Stampin' Up one takes probably about 20 seconds, something like that. And then you can apply it to your image. And you want to hold it, knocking all my boxes off by doing that. Right, try that. You want to hold it around 2 inches away and keep moving it. So again, this is going to get noisy while I just do this, but I want you to watch, because one thing I never tire of with heat embossing is the magic as you see the image, the powder melt on the image and form. So I'm going to turn this on and use it, and apologies for the noise before we start, but hopefully I'm going to hold it closer to the camera. You should see the magic happening. And there we have it. There is the magic happening. There's just one little bit at the bottom I can see. If you look just there, you can perhaps see a duller bit. That's where the powder hasn't melted, so I'll just add a bit more heat to that bit. There we are. So now, hopefully, there, I can show you the beautiful silveriness that has come with that embossing powder. Is that not beautiful? And I hope you could see it melt as the thing went. I just love that. I never ever tire of it. And I've been doing card making and embossing for a very long time, but I never tire of that. So I'm going to use my next stamp, which is my flower head. Again, I'm going to ink it up with the Versamark, and we'll have it coming just off the top of my leaves here. So put that on, and this time, remember to put the top on there, I'm going to use my gold embossing powder, and we will colour that. There we go, and you can see this bit's already melted, so it hasn't stuck to there at all. It has just stuck to the actual flower. So again, we're going to apply the heat and watch the magic. And hopefully you could see that happen. So there is my lovely gold and silver flower. And that would be quite beautiful mounted on something like black, I think. That'd be lovely. I can cut this out. There is a die to go with this set, so I could cut these out, or I could just fussy cut around. But that's going to look lovely as a centerpiece on a card. So that is basic embossing, just simply using your images, adding your powder and melting it. And it's just a lovely thing to do. And that's probably the commonest way that we would use these things. Just checking for comments. Oh, Carol's here. Hello, Carol. Nice to see you. Good. So you haven't missed anything really, because I've talked about basic embossing, which I know you know, so that's not a problem. So I've used that today on this solid image, but here again, if try and get it so it'll show. It is now sunny out, so there we go. So you can see that I embossed the outline with gold, so you can see that, and then coloured inside. That's an outline stamp, so I coloured that, just embossed that in gold and coloured it in. And I also, you might not be able to see, I can't seem to get the light just right on this, but I did the background, and that also has a shimmer. I've just done that in clear embossing powder, which I'll show you in a minute. So what else have I done on these cards so you can see? And oh yes, now these two cards, these have actually been done in a very similar way, and I will show you how we do that. Where's my other bits of card? I definitely had some. Hang on. There's a bit, just get any old bit here. This, I'm going to use this technique to show you. This was done on white card. This one was done on silver foil. And all I did for that is get the ink pad, and I'm just going to get something to protect my desk. I don't want Versamark all over the desk. Mainly because when I drop embossing powder, it'll mean my desk gets embossed. So just going to get the embossing pad and just literally, very lightly, just scrape it over the card. Now, I haven't used the embossing buddy on this card because frankly I don't need to, because I'm doing all of this end of the card. So I'll use the gold again as it's here. So I've just swiped, if you like, swiped the Versamark pad over the card fairly lightly, and look at the effect I've got. Now, I haven't done that as heavily as I used in this particular card. So as you can see with that, with the silver, you can still see the striations, if I can get the light just right to show those. There are patterns that have come, can't see them terribly well. You can see them better on this. So if I melt this, you'll see the effect it gives you. Just, ooh, where's my lid gone? Losing everything today. Let me just lose that. Again, apologies for the noise while I just do this. And get you to see it actually melting as we go. It's a beautiful thing to see. So there, hopefully, you can see how that's happened. And then I can use this on a card if I cut off that bit. You can see that I would use that as the background on a card, which would just get the gold on it. There we go, shiny. So I can use that on the background of a card, just like I've done with this one, where I've just stamped the flower on top and then just used it as a very simple background. I used another bit behind the sentiment on that. So that's another way to use embossing, which I think we sometimes forget about, because it just provides just a very different sort of background. If you haven't got some DSP or stuff like that, then there we go. Like that technique. Good, Carol. I'm glad you do. So it's nice. And by varying how much pressure you put on or how many times you swipe over, you can vary how much pattern there is on there or not. You can see I've left some gaps because I quite like that sort of shabby chic type look. On this one, I left very few gaps. There's a little bit there and a little bit in that corner, but that's all. So it really does. If I can get that close, you can see that better. So there's some little gaps with white, but not so much on that card. And this one I've left a bit more. But sometimes, you know, you just want a little bit. You don't want perhaps a full piece of gold foil, because our foils are quite expensive. I don't like to use them too much as mats or layers on things because, well, they're quite expensive. So doing your own using a bit of embossing powder and heat, all you're paying for is a couple of bits of electricity, I suppose, once you bought the powders, and they last forever. I think that's still my original gold one. It is getting low now and I've got a new one, but I don't really need it, which is brilliant. So that's another technique. Then on this card, I've used that same technique, but this time I've actually used it on silver foil. So I've got the foil behind it, but I'm hoping you can see that well. That actually, you can see that the Versamark and embossing, and I've embossed type on type, so I've put silver on silver. That's really nice. Let me get a little bit of foil, actually. Just got some here. Let me just cut a sample bit. Because I'll show you, it'll show better if I use a different embossing powder. So we'll do the same technique on this bit. So again, it depends how much you want to cover it. We'll go long ways, I think. And I'm just going to swipe the Versamark up and down there a bit. use my gold again. And again, I didn't use the embossing buddy because I'm covering the whole thing. It doesn't matter. I'm looking for patterns. So I might have put a little bit too much on here. It's going to turn the whole thing gold, I think. No, not too bad. Should have done perhaps half of it. You'd see it better. All right. Now, it honestly doesn't really matter whether you emboss from the front or the back. You get a very slightly different effect, but hopefully you can now see that on my silver sheet, I've got a really nice randomy gold pattern. I've actually put quite a lot of Versamark on there. If I'd done it a bit lighter, I'd have got a few more holes, which might have been better. But hopefully on this bit in the corner, you can see it a little better. It's not easy to show this, but hopefully it gives you the idea. So again, those can just provide different looking nice backgrounds for, I have got embossing powder everywhere, just different backgrounds for whatever image you want to use. So here I've used it behind that particular image, die cut it out and stuck it on. Nice background there. So that is a second technique to use. There are lots of others. I did want to show you as well, you can actually, you don't have to use just card. So you can use, this is some old bits of shimmer paper, which I think is now retired. But these actually, you can stamp on anything. You can emboss just about anything. And in next week's video, not the one that's up this week, I will show you embossing on vellum and acetate, which all are brilliant. So let me just show you very quickly. I'll just use this leaf stamp again. This time I will want to use the buddy because I only want this on my image. What colour should we have? Let's have white actually. White would look quite nice on this. So there's my leaf. Now with the lighter papers, the thinner papers like vellum, just be careful with your heat. Don't get your heat gun too close. Better to take your time than get it too close and char the paper. So there we have a white embossed leaf on glimmer paper. How nice is that? I wish I'd left room to put the flower on the top there actually, but anyway, I just wanted to show you on that. So glimmer paper is another thing you can go on. While I am on, where did I put those? While I'm there with the white embossing powder, I do want to talk about embossing onto black card, just using a really simple technique of just white embossing because it looks lovely. Just looking for a different stamp set if I want to use an outline stamp. Let's just try this one actually. So this is from my colour and contour set. This actually matches an infill stamp, so I've got a mark on it so I know where to match up my infills. So black card, definitely need to use my embossing buddy because I don't want any specks of white where I don't want them, if you see what I mean. So just going to stamp up this. in the middle. And we're going to use the white embossing powder again. So again, you can see it's just on my image. It hasn't got anywhere I don't want it to be, but white on black looks lovely. There. There's a little bit around the edge, haven't done. Hang on. That's better. Got the whole thing now. So hopefully you can see. Can't get it to shine. The sun's gone in and I can't get it to. I wonder if I turn that light on. Let me try that and see if I can get better shine. Get it to shine better. No, I still can't. But believe me, that is why it's shiny. So now I can either colour that in, I can paint that if I wanted, or just use it as a centrepiece on a very simple black and white card, which is what I'll probably do with that because I rather like that. So white on black. While we're on white on black, another thing you can do is use a background stamp. So big hard things, and you do need your giant block for these stamps. They are big. So I haven't actually got any of the current ones. This is an old which I really love actually. It's called Crackle Paint, and it's one of my favourites, so I will keep using that. So here, I'm embossing buddied my card. Don't forget that. There we go. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm just going to ink up part of the stamp. I don't need to do the whole stamp because I've only got a little bit of card. And I find it best with these huge stamps, rather than trying to turn it over and place it on your card, always place the card on the stamp. It's easier. So I can place my card down and then just press it down onto the stamp. Don't need to press too hard, just to get enough to get the pattern on it. So put that somewhere, sort it out in a minute. Now again, you could use the copper, the gold, the silver, whatever. It's any wonder I get this everywhere, given how I tip it onto my fingers. There we go. So that is just, I love this background stamp. As you can see, it just gives a lovely effect. So really blowing my other bits of card off the table. So there we go. Isn't that just lovely? And done in silver on black, it looks stunning as well. I've just used white because it's open. But you can see how that just makes a lovely background for an image that you might want to put on a card. So don't ever forget your background stamps. You don't ever need to use the whole stamp. You can just use a bit of it. And some of the current background stamps in the catalogue, there's some flowery ones where you could just use a little bit of that and you don't even need extra flower stamps. Anyway, white on black, wonderful way to emboss. Really like that. Now, the other thing we can do, I think this card's big enough. I'll use just the back of this one that we used before. Have I got a bigger bit? No, it's not really any bigger. Okay. So again, I'm just going to do this. So I'm going to show you now white on black. White on black. What am I talking about? Just showing you that. White on white. So here I'm going to stamp my outline flower again, and I do want an outline stamp for this one, and I'll show you why in just a second. So that is my Versamarked image. just going to add my white embossing powder and just melt it down. Just on the floor, I know. That was because I tried to change my grip on the card and managed to drop it. So that has just put a little white image on. You can see it. Just. Can I angle it so you can see it? Not easily. It is there. Perhaps there. I think you can perhaps see it there. So what you can do with that is, let me just go and grab, I thought I had a brush on here, hang on. And to grab one of my blending brushes, and what colour should we have? Let's have my favourite fresh freesia. So just grabbed one of my lovely blending brushes, ink it up by just rubbing it gently all over my ink pad. There we go. And then perhaps I should have chosen a slightly deeper colour to really emphasise this technique, but I hope you can get the idea. There. So using a blending brush, I can now go behind, you can see now the shininess of the white. I can then put that behind the image and it really brings the image out. And in fact, the darker the pad you use, the more the image will come out. Seems to got a bit of, I seem to have, what a surprise, embossing powder everywhere. I've got a little bit on my ink pad, which isn't good, but never mind. There we go. Make that a little bit darker and you can see it a little better. There we go. There. So you see again another way to use embossing, and that I really like as a way to highlight an image. You can also do the similar thing. We just emboss something in white, and here again I'll use the same stamp. So this one, I just used a blending brush to go over it, so it brings out that. And if it covers, sometimes when you do this, it covers the. Where's my bit of cloth tissue? I've got one here. Sometimes it covers and puts ink all over the embossed bit. If you just use a soft tissue and rub over it, it'll take any excess off the embossing and make it even stick out even more. It didn't cover it too much with that particular ink, but if it does, that's what you do. You just rub off with a tissue. So with this one, I'll show you, I'll use the same colour actually. And I'm going to use my blending pens. So my light blending pen I'll start with. And I'm just going to colour it like this. And the beauty of the embossed bits is that it means your colouring stays inside the lines. You don't have to worry about it because, well, it stays inside the lines. Not going to worry too much about getting this perfect, but well, there isn't a line on that one, look. Ooh. trying to do this quickly because it's boring to watch people colouring sometimes. But so that's my light colour, and I'm just going to come in with my darker version to give a little bit of depth to it. So I should have chosen a different colour because fresh freesia doesn't have too much difference between the dark and the light. I know, we'll add a bit of polished pink. And that'll show up a bit better. There we go. That's better. It's bright. Very bright polished pink. So you see I'm colouring all over the top of the embossing, but it doesn't matter. And I'm just going to blend it in using the darker one here. Doesn't look so stark now, does it? There we go. That's just to give you a little idea. And then I can make sure I take any excess off. So you can colour in a white embossed image. That might look better on a different coloured card. You can't see the white quite so much, but the beauty of it is it does make colouring easy because you can't actually go outside the lines because the embossing keeps you within. So there's two very different ideas of just using white embossing on white card, but it does produce some really nice effects. My preference is this one. I must admit, I love this effect. So easy. And you could use this for any image. The gorgeous cottage rose image, actually, you could put that on. I should have done that in a large piece. Put that on the centre and put freesia or rose behind it, and then use a green behind the leaves. It looks absolutely stunning. Right, what else was I going to do? Let me consult my list. Are there any questions so far? Nothing from anybody, and I can't see anything on Facebook either, so I think that's okay. Right. Oh, another thing you can do. I haven't actually got anything die cut to show you. I'll actually show you on this scrap piece of card. If you've got a die cut area, again, perhaps you want, I don't know, a gold frame for something, you can actually use your Versamark pad to do that. So again, I'm not bothering about embossing buddying because I want the gold everywhere. So say I wanted this oval frame in Versamark, I can put it all around the frame. So you can do this with, say, a word you wanted to cut out, happy birthday or something like that. And I've lost the top on the white. There we go. But it just means if you've run out of gold foil or you don't happen to have, you wanted copper, let's use copper. You haven't got any copper foil because there is a champagne foil, but there isn't actually a copper foil. So if you wanted copper, why not use this technique? So if I wanted a copper frame, I can get I would cut the whole thing out, obviously, first. Heat that through, put through the copper. So that, again, try and get the shine on it. There we go. So that gives you I love the copper. The copper is beautiful. And if you can see, can I get it close enough? It has a sort of almost like bashed effect, a sort of burnished effect. I just love that. So then I could cut that out as a frame and use it. And if I'd die cut out a different frame, I could have used it. So don't forget, you can also use this across die cuts. So say you wanted, well, from this set, where is it? Lost it, here. Say you wanted to use the sending, you could die cut that out and then actually emboss it just by covering the die cut with your Versamark and adding the powder and melting it. So another idea, use it on die cuts. Right, I also, powder everywhere again. I also wanted to show you, let's try on this. Perhaps you've got a slightly boring piece of DSP and you want to make it look more interesting. Where have I got some different types of DSP here? Here we go. Because Versamark is a normal ink pad, it also comes with the Versamark ink refill. And you can use that like you would use any other ink. So I can put a little drop on an acrylic block, like that. And then I'll get, I definitely had a brush, there we go. A little nice narrow little paintbrush. I haven't cleaned this from when I used it the other day. And I can just pick up that like an ink and then I can use it. So say I wanted this paper to have gold dots on it rather than just random little gold dots. I've just done just a few to show you. So all I've done is covered some of the dots on the paper with, let's use silver. Silver gold. No, silver might not show up so much. We'll use gold. Silver would look nice actually, but you won't see it really for the purposes of this. I want to make sure you can see it. I'll use gold. So all I've done there is use the paintbrush to dab a little tiny bit of the ink on the paper, and now my dotty white paper has now got gold splodges on it as well. I've only done a few. You could obviously add more or less as you wanted, but you can just jazz up your designer series paper. So with this one here, for example, I could do, I don't know, every other line and just add a bit of gold up the line. Which one have I done that one? And if you take your time, you can make this fairly accurate. I'm just doing it very, very roughly just to show you the idea. So that was done really roughly just to show you the idea. But there you can see how I've changed my stripy paper and used that in a different way. So it is worth, if you're thinking of buying a Versamark ink pad, do get the ink refill as well so that you can use it in different ways. And I can use that on this paper. Perhaps I want this to, oh, what should we do with blobs? Just highlight a few blobs again, I think. Make this almost a geometric pattern. Done that one, so I'll do this one. Again, just done it really roughly to give you the idea. Very roughly, they're splodges rather than blobs, but you'll get the idea. Yeah, you get the idea. So you can get these specialty papers which do have gold on them, perhaps gold, white and black, which I think is a fabulous combination. But if you've got some black and white papers, why not add your own interest and add your own gold or silver or whatever colour you actually want to use? So that's another idea, to use it on DSP. Right, now, one of the other I'll just use the end of this actually. One of the other ways I've put on this week's video, and that I'm going to show you a technique that I showed this week, but I'm also going to show it next week, is, as I said, you can stamp in ink and add colour. So let me just get, I'll use this one actually. This isn't fresh freesia, but it's close enough. To get the background as in this card, where I've stamped these and added clear embossing powder. I'll show you the same on this little piece here. Now, if you're using ink and going to emboss, you have to act quickly. You have to act quickly. You can see I've got flipping embossing powder everywhere. What a surprise. You can't, this doesn't write. Whereas the Versamark, once you've stamped it, it stays sticky for ages, and you can take your time on putting the putting the embossing powder on. With this, you want to act fast. So in fact, I shall open my clear embossing powder before we start. It's dangerous, I'll knock it over now. So I'm very quickly going to stamp just a few flowers on here. And then I need to get my embossing powder on quickly. There we go, just a bit there. So you can see the first thing that you can see, no wonder I'm getting it everywhere, is that it seems to have, you seem to have lost the colour. The colour's gone. It seems to have vanished behind the white. But I need to put this back into my pot first, which is why it's so important to work over some paper. Just form a little funnel there, and hopefully it'll all go back in without going all over the desk. It's a very full pot, this. I really need to find another Chinese container. There we go. Oh, still managed to get some all over the surface, never mind. Okay. So as you can see, that's now embossed with clear. Can I get it to actually shine? Not really, but you can get, I think, a glimmer of it. So you can see the colours sort of almost come back through, but now you've got it just shining. So you can actually see the edges. And again, you could then colour those in if you wanted, or use that as a background. So clear embossing powder, lovely to use. But you do have to work quick. However, if you didn't want to work quickly, there is a way to do it. So I just need, my desk is getting cluttered. I also need to get rid of all the powder I have dropped on there. Because we have a wonderful machine called the Stamparatus. And the Stamparatus is wonderful because we can use it. Let me just, where should I want that? Somewhere in the middle. Just pick it up. So I've picked up my stamp on here. And what I can now do is use, I'll just use the other end of that, to be honest. Put this in. Now before, as I said, you have to act really quickly if you're just going to do it directly with ink. But there's a way to do it that gives you a lot more time. And you need to use the Stamparatus. You'll see why in a second. So if I now, did I embossy buddy that? I can't remember. I'll embossy buddy it now. There we go. So what I can do is I can now stamp this in Versamark first. So I've stamped it in Versamark. Still got a bit of ink on actually from this, but now I can stamp it in the colour. So now I have the colour, but now I can take my time because this ink is now sticky. Let's move that out of the way because I've used the Versamark underneath. So I now have time. I need to find my other bit of... Where did I just put that bit of paper? Honestly. Find another scrap of paper, so I've got it here. There we go. So now I have time to be able to put this clear embossing powder on. Just a bit there. There we go. And it still sticks because the Versamark allowed the ink to stay sticky. So if you want to use clear embossing powder on a coloured ink, let's get this back in there, hopefully without getting it too much over the side again. Really must find another Chinese container for that one. Oh, I have got it everywhere again. So stamping your image in Versamark and then using your ink means that you can take your time and not have to worry about the ink drying before you can get the embossing powder on. So that's a great tip. You do need a stamparatus, but then everyone should have a stamparatus. And now you can probably see actually the difference. So you should be able to see that glistening better. Oh, hopefully. Oh, there, just catching the light there to show the glisten on it. And that glistens more than just the ink. So if you really want, can you see the difference between those? These are glistening. I can see there's a slight glisten, but it's very slight, which is probably fine for a background. But you might want it to be a bit more obvious, like with this one. Now you can see it glistening, which I haven't melted that bit. Hang on. There, that's better. So hopefully you can see the difference in those. That's just ink with clear embossing powder put straight on. This bought myself time by Versamark, then adding the ink on top. Then I've got time to add the embossing powder and it sticks far better. So my advice, if you want to use it as a clear embossed outline as a background stamp, use your stamparatus, stamp in Versamark first, and then add your ink on top. So I hope that gives you a nice idea. What else can you do with embossing? There's so much. But that I really like the stamparatus technique if you want to stamp in colour. Because obviously we haven't got coloured embossing powder. We don't have a fresh freesia embossing powder. But that is embossed in fresh freesia because I've managed to use the clear embossing to bring the colour out and have it looking all nice and shiny. So, has anyone got any questions? Can't see anything on Facebook. So I think I've covered nearly everything. Oh, there is one more thing to do, actually, that we can do. What can I use for that? Let me use one of these ones I've already done. I'll just use this piece, actually, because one thing you can do, so I wanted a bit more colour on this bit here. If I get my... I thought I got this out as well. No, vanished. Need my water spray. What is it? Is there any in that one? There's the tiniest bit in that one. There's none in that one. Where's the one I got out? For heaven's sake, I got one out so I'd have one ready for this technique. Nah. Seem to have lost it. Oh, it'll turn up. Anyway. Okay, I'll have to use this one. So this is just one of our water sprayers. There's the tiniest bit in the bottom. I hope it's going to be enough. Again, I am actually going to get what colour should we put on there? White, I think. So many options. I could, of course, by the way, on this, or on this one, let me do it on this one. I can do this. If I use a little bit of my Versamark ink, perhaps I wanted a white centre on my flower. There's my white centre on my flower. Just use a bit of Versamark ink on that. Again, done very roughly to give you the idea, but that's another way to do it. But what I wanted to show you is you can actually use water. So if hopefully this will spray. And all I'm going to do is just give this a very quick spray. Oh, a bit too much, but it'll give you the idea. I can actually add, I just sprayed the middle of that, as you can see, just to give you the idea. You can add blobs of water, actually using a paintbrush, and just flicking is a nice way to do it. But embossing powder will actually stick to water. So you can see it's on there. Now before it dries, I want to start melting it. The important thing when you're using this technique is you need to heat from underneath. So I started by heating from underneath, and I don't know if you saw, but there was actually a little bit of steam came off, because obviously I'm actually getting rid of some of the water vapour. But start underneath, and then hopefully you can see the shimmeriness on that. Oh, not very well. I can't seem to get the white to show the shimmer too much. It is there. Now obviously I sort of squirted that and put quite a bit of water on. You could have, if I'd used a little dropper, I could have spread it out a bit more, but I wanted to show you the idea. But you can see it's all dry and everything. It is now embossed. So you can emboss with water. So you don't even need a Versamark pad sometimes. So I hope those are giving you some ideas of how to use heat embossing. As I say, there's a video coming out on my website tomorrow, I think. No, Saturday? I can't remember. Tomorrow, I think, which will give you the first 5 tips about heat embossing. I'll be doing the rest of them for next week, including some of the ones I've shown you today. There we go. So, oh, very interesting. Lots of good ideas to take away. Jolly good. I'm glad you enjoyed that, Carol. And I hope people who are watching this live, not live, if you sort of mean, because it will stay up on YouTube, obviously, and on Facebook. I hope you enjoyed those ideas. Do go to craftycarolscards.co.uk and sign up for my emails, and then you'll get all my news and all the links to the new videos and things. And I will see you again soon. Thanks for joining me today. Bye for now.